Alright, S-chassis guys, I need to preface this video with something. This is more of a beginner guide. This is not every single thing you need to know, but it's kind of every single thing you need to know about the Nissan S-chassis, which is a familiar name if you've ever been to anything car related. They've become the cornerstone of Japanese car culture, particularly within the drift scene. The S13, 14, and 15 are all iconic in their own right, each offering something unique for enthusiasts. We are not talking about the S12 in this video, sorry about that. How did they earn this status, what makes them so beloved, and why are there so many freaking variants of them? In this video, we're going to dive deep into the world of the Nissan S-chassis, covering the S13, 14, and 15, exploring the trim levels, the engine options, and why some versions are more popular than others. We are not talking about oddball stuff like an Endivia, sorry Farzam. We are talking about the standard stuff. The Nissan S-chassis is shorthand for the line of sports coupes that Nissan developed starting in the 1970s and continuing through the early 2000s. These cars were designed to be lightweight, rear-wheel drive, and relatively affordable sports cars, perfect for drivers who wanted a car that handled well and had some good performance characteristics without breaking the bank or getting into one of Nissan's Z cars. The S-chassis line contains the Silvia and the 180SX models in Japan and the 240SX in the US market. Across different generations, these cars use a variety of 4-cylinder engines and 1V6, but we will get to that, and we're known for their modifiability. The S13, the S14, and the S15 generations are the ones most people recognize today, and when we're talking about S-chassis, it's kind of what we're talking about. Let's break down each of these models in detail. First up, the S13, 89 to 94, debuted in 89 and quickly became a favorite among enthusiasts. This generation was split into two main models, the Silvia, a coupe sold in Japan, and the 180SX, a hatchback sold in Japan. The 240SX was the US equivalent of the S13, but it came with a completely different truck engine. Sorry, KA guys. Now, they came with two different engine options, the CA18DET, 1.8-liter Turbo 4, or the SR20 DET, 2-liter Turbo 4. The S13 was a two-door coupe available in Japan, early models coming with that CA18DET, a 1.8-liter turbo engine making around 167 horsepower. The CA18 was an okay engine, but most enthusiasts prefer the later models that came with the SR20 DET. CA is the coupe engine, you can't tell me otherwise. The SR20 became the heart of the legendary Silvia. The 2-liter put out 205 horsepower in the red top variant and had huge tuning potential. You could push this engine to well over 400 horsepower on the stock bottom end, making it a great choice for tuners and drifters and anyone else who wanted to modify their car like that. The S13 is the SR20, God's motor, is still revered even today. Now, we talked about the Silvia, let's also talk about the 180SX. The 180SX was a hatchback version of the Silvia with a more theoretically practical body style and pop-up headlights, pop-ups forever. Like the Silvia, early models came with the CA18 while later models got the SR20. The 180SX became a drift icon, obviously, and is still sought after, even to this day. Now, the 240SX coupe and hatchback variant, Nissan had less imagination bringing it to the US, obviously. The 240SX was mechanically relatively similar to the 180SX and Silvia, but came with the KA24 series of engines. Early models, 89 to 90, came with the KA24E, the single jingle, a 2.4-liter single cam engine that produced 140 horsepower. Later models, 91 to 94, got the twin cam KA24DE, which made around 155 horsepower. While the KA24DE had more displacement than the SR20 DET, it lacked that T, the turbocharger, making it far less desirable for enthusiasts. The KA24DE is popular because it's cheap. There's really no reason to buy KA other than it's cheap. Many have turboed it and you can have a KAT that can make some power, but just buy an SR. I don't know why you KA guys are so set on this stuff. Anyway, the S13 was lightweight, it had an SR, rear-wheel drive, it became a quick favorite in tuner culture. Its balance of affordability, back then at least, and performance made it accessible to a wide range of enthusiasts. Now even today, the S13 is probably the most common car you're going to see at drift events, and the SR20 is still widely used in the tuning scene. However, as these cars age, finding clean examples has become more difficult and more expensive, and SRs are $6,000, and I don't want to live in that world. The S14 generation of the Nissan Silvia was a more refined, grown-up version of the S13. Nissan increased the dimensions, the width, the length, and improved the suspension and gave the car a more modern appearance overall. While many enthusiasts prefer the rawness of the S13, others appreciate the S14's more mature design and theoretically improved handling. In Japan, the S14 continued to use the SR, but the engine was revised to include a T28 turbo, which made more power. The S14 SR made 220 horsepower, a slight improvement over the S13's output. The S14 featured a more comfortable and rigid chassis, making it a better daily driver or grand tourer than the S13. It had more modern and subdued styling cues, although some enthusiasts missed the more aggressive boxy look of the S13 and RIP pop-ups. Here in the States, the US market S14 was basically just the same thing as the S13, continuing with the KA24DE engine, which was still not turbocharged Nissan Y. As a result, the US version of the S14 is less desirable to performance enthusiasts unless you swap it, which you're going to swap it, right? You're not going to keep the KA, please? The S14 is not as raw as the S13, but people do like it because it handles a little bit better and it's a more comfortable ride, and frankly, depending on your opinion, it's a little bit sleeker looking as well. The Koki S14, produced in 97 to 98, is especially popular and expensive, 25 grand by the way, thanks to its more aggressive front end design. Zenki's cool, Koki's cooler, don't at me. The S15 was the final generation, although we might get another one, of the S-chassis and is often considered the best version ever produced. Unfortunately, the S15 was never sold in the US, making it a sought-after import that recently became legal, which is really cool. If anyone wants to sell me a cheap one, comment down below. The S15 came with two engine options, the SR20 DET, which we've already talked about, this time the notch-top variant, and the SR20 DE, a naturally aspirated engine. The notch-top SR20 came with 250 horsepower, the most powerful version of the engine ever. The SR20 DE was less exciting, making around 165 horsepower, and was primarily found in base models. It was also the first time Nissan had unturbocharged the SR in an S-chassis, which is interesting. The S15 had a 6-speed manual compared to the 5-speed and continued to improve on the chassis dynamics from the S14. It had a limited slip differential and further suspension refinements, and handled better than any previous Sylvia as a result. The styling was also significantly updated, giving the car a sharper, more aggressive look that looks super cool even to this day. The S15 is considered by many to be the pinnacle of the S-chassis. It's a combination of modern styling, excellent handling, and the most potent SR20 DET engine, making it a dream car for many enthusiasts. However, because the S15 was never sold in the US, it remains a relatively rare import that's just now starting to hit US shores, and prices for clean examples have been climbing steadily. For those lucky enough to own one, the S15 delivers the pinnacle of S-chassis performance. It's an unbeatable blend of performance and of style. So, we've talked about the various chassis, but throughout the generations, Nissan offered several trim levels and special editions of the S-chassis cars. Here are a few notable ones. The Sylvia S13 Ks and Qs, the Ks being the turbocharged SR20 DET engine, and the Qs being the naturally aspirated SR20 DE engine. The Ks and Qs trim levels were offered on the S13 and S14 generations, and came from playing cards, kings and queens respectively. The Ks models came with the turbocharged SR20 DET, while the Qs models were equipped with a naturally aspirated SR20 DE, which contradicts what I said earlier in the video, oops. The Ks models have better performance, big shock there. The S15 came in Spec R or Spec S, which was the updated version of the Ks and Qs. Turbo and non-turbo Spec R is the one that you want here. So why is the S-chassis so loved by tuners? Why is it like the most popular drift car ever? Well, all S-chassis cars are lightweight and rear-wheel drive, making them perfect for drifting or for spirited driving. The SR20 DET engine is one of the most tuner-friendly engines ever produced. Rocker arm stoppers or no rocker arm stoppers? You tell me. With a simple turbo upgrade, ECU tune, supporting modifications, intercooler, injectors, blah blah blah, you can push over 400 horsepower on stock internals. Affordability, once at a time, kind of. When they were new, the S-chassis cars were affordable and easy to modify. Even today, they are still relatively accessible for tuners, although clean examples are becoming more and more expensive as time goes on. Aftermarket support-wise, the S-chassis has an enormous aftermarket community, probably second only to like Mustangs. Whether you want to build a drift car, a drag car, a show car, a track weapon, time attack, whatever you want to do, there are literally endless parts and resources available. Now, drifting, obviously, thanks to balanced handling and lightweight chassis, the S-chassis have become the go-to platform for drifting. In fact, these cars basically built the drift culture that we know today. The Nissan S-chassis has cemented its place in automotive history. From the raw, boxy charm of the S13 to the sleek and modern S15, these cars are some of the most beloved vehicles in the JDM world. While finding a clean, unmolested example today is a real challenge, the S-chassis remains one of the best platforms for modification and for performance. Whether you are looking for a weekend beater drift car, whether you're looking for a time attack car, whether you're looking for a weekend cruiser, or heck, if you want to put an LS in there and build a drag car, the S-chassis are sure to deliver what you are after. Again, I know there are a lot more variants. I know there's a lot more stuff going on with S-chassis than this. I've owned too many to count. This is a very basic guide on the S-chassis. We'll make another video in the future talking more about it for all you guys that are lurking on Sylvia still to this day. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked, drop a like, drop a comment, drop a subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to turn on notifications, pick up some wheels from our website, and I'll see you in the next one.